Welcome to today's video on class 35, which continues with our graphing component. And we're going to talk about what it means for a graph to be an increasing, decreasing, or constant. Increasing, so think of it in terms of slope. A line that has positive slope, the line increases from left to right. So it's going to be the same here when we talk about increasing and decreasing, is that if it's going up from left to right, so if the graph goes up from left to right, it is considered increasing. So the key word is up from left to right. So this graph is increasing on the interval from negative infinity to positive infinity. And notice for these numbers, you look at the x coordinates. Now, if you're talking about decreasing, you're talking about going down from left to right. So decreasing down from left to right. And this one would be decreasing on the interval of negative infinity to positive infinity. Constant means that the graph is flat from left to right. So this one is constant on the interval of negative infinity to positive infinity. All right, so now we look at an example problem here where we have a graph, and the first question asks, does the graph represent a function? Well, if you do the vertical line test throughout, you'll notice that it is a function because it passes the vertical line test. Next, it asks for domain and range. Well, the domain, if you go from left to right, notice it's all real numbers less than negative 2, because this is x equals negative 2 right here. And then it picks up again from negative 2 until you get to the next vertical asymptote, which is positive 4. And then from positive 4 on to infinity, it is also on the x-axis. Now for the range, you look from the bottom up. Well, if you notice there's arrows here, so that means it's going towards negative infinity, and then it tops out here at y equals 0, and it's including that because there's a dot there, so you put a bracket. But then notice there's a space here, and then after y equals 3, which is this horizontal asymptote, the graph goes basically up forever on both sides. So from 3 to infinity is the remaining part of the range. Where is the graph continuous? Well, the graph is continuous until negative 2. Then from negative 2 to positive 4. And then from positive 4 on to infinity. State any discontinuities. Well, the two discontinuities are both asymptotes, so they're infinite discontinuities. And it happens at x equals negative 2 and x equals 4. Now, where is the graph increasing and decreasing? So what I'd do is I'd put an I, a D, and a C. Well, if you notice, starting from here, it's going up. So there it's increasing. And remember, it's x. So from negative infinity to this x at -2, it's increasing. Then here, it's also going up from left to right until you get to x equals 1 right here. That's x equals 1. So -2 to 1, it increases. And then from 1 to this vertical asymptote of 4, it decreases. And then after 4, it also decreases until at positive infinity. And it's never constant. All right, next page. All right, this example, if you notice you do the vertical line test, it passes, so it is a function. The domain, well, if you notice, there are no circles, there's no vertical asymptotes, so therefore it's all real numbers. The range, well, there's an arrow going down and an arrow going up, and everywhere in between there's no holes, so therefore it's all real numbers as well. This graph you can draw basically without picking up your pencil, so therefore it is continuous over all real numbers, which means there are no discontinuities. Now, as far as increasing, decreasing, and constant goes, well, if you notice, you start out, it increases until you get to x equals -2. Then it's decreasing from -2 to x equals +4. Remember, we're only looking at the x coordinates. And then from +4, it's increasing. Oops. It's increasing, not constant. And there you go. We'll erase that. All right, so that concludes our video. Hold on. So that concludes our video for this evening. For C block, homework set number 36, which I gave you, you don't have to do that for homework. We will do the first part of class. So tomorrow I'll just check to see that you have your notes complete. All right, hope you have a good evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow.